The room was electric, vibrating with an energy that could be felt in the very air. The hum of cameras, the flash of bright lights. It was a spectacle unlike any other. Elon Musk stood at the podium, his usual calm demeanor replaced with an unusual edge of uncertainty. The press conference had already been in motion for nearly 30 minutes, but this was the moment everyone had been waiting for. "I'm donating $500 million to the Global Health Initiative," Musk's voice echoed through the room. It was bold, confident, but there was something in his eyes that told the world he knew the weight of his words. The gasps rippled through the crowd like a wave crashing onto the shore. His reputation for grandiose moves, for being a master of technology, had always preceded him. But this was different. This wasn't a rocket launch or an AI breakthrough. This was a leap into the unknown. Musk looked out over the sea of reporters, their pens furiously scribbling notes, their eyes fixed on him like predators about to pounce. His expression softened for a moment, his gaze drifting from the cameras to the floor. Was he second-guessing his decision, or was he simply bracing for what was to come? Some of you might ask why. Why give away so much? Why now? He paused, letting the question hang in the air like a challenge. The answer is simple. The world needs change. We need to do more than just push boundaries in space, in technology. We need to make a real difference here on Earth. The crowd was silent. Musk's eyes flickered toward the back of the room, where his PR team and a handful of executives watched anxiously. They had all been warned. This wasn't going to be a typical press event. The journalists weren't here for the usual Musk bravado. They were here for something deeper, something that might not sit well with everyone. Just as he was about to continue, a voice cut through the tension like a knife. "That's a lot of money, Mr. Musk," came the voice of a reporter from the New York Times, known for his razor-sharp critiques of the billionaire. "Is this just a tax dodge, or are we actually going to see results?" A ripple of murmurs spread across the room. Musk's jaw tightened. The question had been coming. He had known it was inevitable. But hearing it now felt like a direct punch to the gut. This wasn't a moment of celebration. This was a moment of judgment. "Is that really the best question you have for me?" Musk's response was calm, too calm for the amount of fury bubbling beneath the surface. He leaned slightly forward, eyes narrowing. "You think I'm making this donation to save a few bucks? You think I'm doing this for tax benefits?" There was a slight quiver in his voice that no one in the room missed. "I'm doing this because the system is broken," he continued, his voice gaining strength. "And if we don't take action now, nothing will ever change. Not the environment, not healthcare, not inequality. Nothing." He paused, looking directly at the reporter, whose face was now hard to read. The moment hung in the air, thick with anticipation. The room was tense, everyone waiting to see who would break first. But before Musk could speak again, a second voice interrupted, cutting through the silence with an even sharper edge. "Is this donation a way to distract from the ongoing scandal at your companies, Mr. Musk?" The voice came from Marcus Harris, a rival tech billionaire known for his no-holds-barred approach to business and media. "A scandal that's been making waves for weeks? You expect us to believe you're suddenly this altruistic?" The room shifted. Musk's smile faltered. The journalists who had once been respectful now turned their focus to Marcus, whose smirk was impossible to miss. He had just fired the first shot, and it was one designed to wound. Musk's fists clenched under the podium. He knew this was coming. Marcus Harris had always been a thorn in his side, but now it seemed like the rivalry was about to escalate. A camera flash went off as Musk's expression tightened, but he didn't break eye contact with Marcus. This was far from over. But the damage had been done. The first crack in the facade had appeared. "Watch carefully, Marcus," Musk said with a slow, deliberate calmness that made the room quiet. "What you're about to see is just the beginning." The words hung in the air like a dare. The tension was palpable, the eyes of the entire room trained on the two men, one seeking to expose the other ready to defend his honor. The battle lines were drawn. The scene ended with Musk's icy stare locked on Marcus, daring him to make the next move as the crowd waited for the storm to hit. The press conference had barely ended when the storm hit. Musk had returned to his sleek modern office, surrounded by a team of executives who were now in damage control mode. The moment his assistant opened the door, she stepped in with a pale face. "Mr. Musk, you need to see this." She handed him a tablet, the screen flashing with the headline, "Is Elon Musk's $500 million donation a tax scam?" Musk's pulse quickened, and he snatched the tablet from her hands, his eyes scanning the text. There, front and center, was Marcus Harris, his arch-rival in the tech world, the smooth-talking media mogul who had never missed an opportunity to throw a jab at Musk. The interview was already airing live on every major news outlet. "Well, I'm sure we all admire Mr. Musk's willingness to donate such a vast sum of money." Harris's voice oozed from the screen, his smirk evident even through the static. "But let's not forget the timing. Just after multiple reports of horrific working conditions at SpaceX, a company with a history of undercutting its own employees. What better way to distract from those uncomfortable headlines than by throwing a bunch of money at a charity where?" Interviewer, a seasoned news anchor with sharp eyes, nodded gravely. "You're suggesting this donation is more than just a generous gesture?" "Of course it is," Harris replied, leaning forward into the camera with a calculated confidence. "I'm not questioning Musk's intentions, I'm questioning the timing. This is about damage control, pure and simple, a distraction from what's really going on behind the scenes. Musk's move here is textbook corporate manipulation, and the public would be wise to ask where his true loyalties lie, towards the people or to his bottom line." Musk's grip on the tablet tightened. Every word Harris spoke felt like a strike aimed directly at his heart, an insult to the integrity he had worked so hard to build. But the worst part was the smirk, the smug look that Harris wore like armor, as if he had already won the battle. Musk threw the tablet down on the desk, the crackling sound of the screen making everyone in the room flinch. His gaze was distant, his jaw tight. The silence stretched on for a moment as everyone waited for him to react. "Turn it off," Musk muttered to his assistant, his voice low and controlled, though anger simmered beneath the surface. "I don't want to see that bastard's face anymore." The assistant complied quickly, flicking the switch on the tablet, but the damage had already been done. Musk's team was looking at him now, unsure of how he'd respond. This wasn't the kind of attack Musk was used to. The accusations were subtle, but razor-sharp, and they carried an unmistakable weight. "What's our plan?" his PR manager, David, asked cautiously, stepping forward. "We need to address this right now before it spreads further. The media's already all over it." Musk's eyes flashed. The room was tense, the weight of his next decision heavy in the air. For a moment, he said nothing, only staring ahead as if deep in thought. The team waited, the seconds stretching painfully. "You know what?" Musk said finally, his voice rising. "Let him talk. Let Marcus Harris play his games." David blinked in confusion. "Sir?" "He wants to make this personal," Musk continued, his voice hardening with each word. "Then let's make it personal." Before anyone could respond, Musk strode over to his desk and began typing something rapidly on his computer. A few clicks and a tweet was born. Marcus Harris, just like always, too afraid to show his true face. The truth is, I'm investing in the future. You just keep counting your dollars, Marcus. We'll see who actually changes the world. He hit send with a sharp press of the key. The tweet instantly exploded onto the feed, flooding the media outlets with a barrage of notifications. His assistant looked at him, wide-eyed. "Are you sure about this?" Musk's lips curled into a faint smile, the fire in his eyes unmistakable. "He thinks he can undermine me with some calculated PR? No, I'm going to expose him for what he is, a man who doesn't care about change, only about control." But the damage was already spreading. Within hours, Marcus Harris's accusations were the talk of the town. Every major network picked up the story. People began questioning the authenticity of Musk's donation. Was it just a ploy to hide the true issues at SpaceX? Could Musk really be trying to manipulate the system for his own gain? The news spread like wildfire, igniting heated debates on social media and in boardrooms across the world. Musk's team, though rallying behind him, couldn't deny the mounting pressure. Harris had successfully turned the narrative against Musk, at least for the time being. Hours later, a reporter from Business Insider managed to get an exclusive interview with Marcus Harris. The tension in the room was palpable as the rival billionaire expanded on his earlier statements, painting Musk as a corporate manipulator. "He wants you to believe he's a hero. He wants you to believe he's giving to charity because of some altruistic urge. But think about it. He's the same man who recently came under fire for his treatment of workers. A donation like this doesn't change anything. It's a distraction, a PR stunt." The room filled with murmurs. But then, unexpectedly, Marcus turned to the camera, his gaze piercing. "I'm not asking for anything from you, the public, but I am asking you to question the timing. Ask yourself, why now? What's Musk trying to hide?" And just like that, Harris had struck again, turning Musk's grand gesture into a controversy. The media was in full swing, fueling the fire with more questions than answers. But as the firestorm grew, so did the stakes. Musk's back was against the wall now, and there was no turning back. He would have to do more than just defend himself. He'd have to take control, and fast. And the world was watching, waiting to see who would come out on top. The press had gone into overdrive, feeding on the growing frenzy like a pack of hungry wolves. Each headline, each broadcast, each tweet stoked the fire further. The once celebrated $500 million donation was now being painted as a mere smokescreen, a diversion crafted to conceal darker truths. The hashtag, #MuskScam, trended across the globe. From New York to Tokyo, from London to Sydney, people were tuning into the scandal, and the media was eager to serve it up in every conceivable form. The tabloids were ruthless. The Daily Exposé ran a headline that screamed, "Elon Musk's $500 million donation, a smokescreen for corporate greed." Below the bold print, the article suggested that Musk had used his charitable donation to cover up years of accusations about SpaceX's harsh working conditions and his latest legal woes. The article was laced with insinuations that Musk's wealth was blood money, suggesting that the true intention of his donation was to shield himself from a flurry of negative press. But it wasn't just the tabloids. Mainstream outlets like CNN and The Guardian joined the fray. A live news segment showed a panel of experts discussing Musk's recent actions. One by one, they called his donation a strategic move designed to garner public sympathy and distract from his mounting controversies. They didn't just question the timing, they questioned Musk's integrity, his ethics, and whether this was a desperate attempt to save face. "It's textbook manipulation," said one of the panelists, an economics professor from Harvard. He's using his money to rebrand himself as a philanthropist, but what about the people who have suffered under his companies? What about the exploitation of workers in his factories? Does his sudden act of giving erase all of that? As the narrative surrounding Musk's donation grew more sinister, the media storm only intensified. Videos of angry workers protesting outside SpaceX headquarters began circulating on social media. Pundits on every major network were dissecting Musk's every move, scrutinizing his actions, searching for any sign of hypocrisy. Even his past efforts, his role in electric vehicles, space exploration, and renewable energy were now being questioned. At the same time, Marcus Harris seized the opportunity to tighten his grip. In another scathing interview, Harris made it clear that he wasn't backing down. "This is what happens when tech moguls think they're above the law," Harris said, speaking directly into the camera. "The public is not stupid. We see through the facade. Musk can donate as much money as he wants, but we know it's all just smoke and mirrors. The truth is out there, and it's only a matter of time before it all comes crashing down." For Musk, the barrage of negative press was suffocating. Every morning, his social media feed was flooded with tweets and articles accusing him of being a fraud. The "Buy a Musk Scam" hashtag was everywhere. The public had started to turn on him, and it seemed as though there was no way to escape the scrutiny. His allies tried to step in, offering their support publicly, but their voices were drowned out by the tide of negativity. Former colleagues from Tesla and SpaceX, respected figures in the tech industry, spoke out in Musk's defense, calling him a visionary who had done more for technology and the environment than most could dream of. "It's absurd to think this. Donation is anything but genuine," said one Tesla engineer, a longtime friend of Musk. Elon has always believed in solving the world's problems, and this is just one more example of him doing that. He doesn't need to distract from anything. He's already changed the world. But these voices were lost in the noise. The media, desperate for more fuel to add to the fire, dug deeper into Musk's past. They dug up old interviews, scrutinized his business dealings, and even published rumors from disgruntled former employees. The more they uncovered, the more the accusations stuck. Some of Musk's past decisions were painted in a new light. Was his philanthropy truly selfless, or was it part of a broader scheme to safeguard his empire? It didn't help that Musk was rarely seen publicly. His silence only made matters worse. The more he withdrew, the more people began to question whether he had anything to hide, but Musk refused to back down. One night, after hours of silence, he posted a tweet that shot through the headlines like a bullet. "I've always done things my way. I refuse to let a few angry voices dictate the future. I believe in this cause, and I believe in making a real difference. The world will see the truth soon enough." The tweet was concise, but it carried weight. Musk wasn't retreating, he wasn't caving to the pressure. Instead, he was digging in his heels, making it clear that he would not backtrack. However, the more he stood firm, the more the media piled on. A new series of exposés ran that painted Musk as an even more dangerous figure. The Daily Exposé published a detailed piece alleging that Musk's donation was only a small part of a larger financial plan involving offshore tax shelters. "Musk's empire runs deep," the article read, "and it's not just his businesses that are benefiting, it's his own pockets." The media storm continued to spiral out of control. Musk's every move was questioned, his every word twisted into an attack on his credibility. Public opinion, once in his favor, was now dangerously divided. Musk's allies continued to defend him, but with each passing day their voices were drowned out by the rising tide of skepticism. The billionaire's face appeared less frequently on television. His public appearances became fewer, his interactions with the media more calculated and distant. It was clear. Musk was overwhelmed, but he would not be broken. The world was waiting. for him to falter, for him to admit guilt, to apologize. But Musk refused to do any of that. Instead, he dug in deeper, holding on to the one thing he still controlled, his resolve. The storm was far from over, and the pressure was only mounting. The question on everyone's mind now was not whether Musk would back down, it was how much longer he could withstand the onslaught before something truly explosive happened. The atmosphere in Elon Musk's private penthouse office was thick with tension. The room, with its floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the city skyline, felt cold and impersonal, an eerie contrast to the storm raging in the world outside. The media had reached a fever pitch, and the barrage of attacks from Marcus Harris and the public's growing skepticism had made the air around Musk heavy, suffocating even. He had spent the last few days in isolation, surrounded only by his closest circle of allies. Tonight, however, was different. It was not a public event, it wasn't a press conference. It was a private meeting with a select few, people he trusted, with the truth. The small, dimly lit conference room hummed with quiet murmurs. At the table sat his closest advisors, David, his PR manager, Sarah, his lead engineer, and Ben, a former colleague from Tesla, who had recently moved into Musk's philanthropic circle. They were a small but loyal group, each person in the room, having been with Musk for years, through thick and thin. They knew him better than anyone else, but tonight they were about to learn something that would change everything. Musk stood at the head of the table, pacing slowly. His mind was clearly elsewhere, his eyes constantly flicking between his friends and the city below. The pressure from the outside world had mounted so high that he could almost feel it pressing against the walls, trying to crack through. Finally, he stopped pacing and turned to face the group. His voice was measured, yet there was a weight to it that wasn't there before. "I didn't just donate the money to make a splash," Musk said, his tone serious. "This is just the beginning. I've been working on something bigger, something that could change the entire system of global charity." David, the PR manager, frowned, as if trying to piece the puzzle together. "What do you mean? You're already under fire, Elon. What could be bigger than this?" Musk's lips tightened as he made eye contact with each of them, almost daring them to question him further. "I'm launching a platform that will allow global charity organizations to operate more efficiently, more transparently. It will use blockchain technology to track every donation in real time, ensuring that the money goes directly to where it's needed. No more red tape, no more hidden overheads, and no more corruption." A quiet gasp echoed in the room, and Sarah, the engineer, leaned forward. "Wait, you're talking about creating a global charity system that's entirely transparent?" Musk nodded. "Exactly. The current system is a mess. Every year, billions of dollars get funneled into charities, and no one knows where the money actually ends up. With blockchain, we can change that. We can show exactly how much is donated, where it goes, and how it's spent. Every cent accounted for." Ben looked skeptical, his fingers tapping on the table. "But won't the big players in the charity world fight this? A platform like that could shake the foundations of the whole system." Musk's gaze was hard, determined. "They'll fight it, of course, but I'm not doing this for them. I'm doing it for the people who are actually making a difference. The ones on the front lines, health workers, educators, environmental activists. Those are the people who will benefit the most." David looked at Musk, his voice softer now. "And you've been working on this in secret? For how long?" Musk's face darkened as he leaned against the edge of the table. "For months. I knew it would take time to get everything in place, but this donation, this is the first step. It's my way of showing the world that I'm serious. I need to prove that I'm not just throwing money at the problem, I'm solving it. The silence that followed was heavy. Ben, ever the realist, was the first to speak. You're talking about changing an entire global industry.
And you're doing it at a time when the media's already looking for a reason to tear you apart. Elon, this is a huge risk. Musk turned toward the window, his eyes focused on the sprawling city below. The lights flickered like distant stars.
Each one a reminder of the world outside, of the problems he had always sought to solve. I've never been afraid of taking risks, Musk said, his voice low. This is bigger than any of my companies. This could change everything, and I'm not backing down. It's time to disrupt a system that's been broken for too long. Just as the weight of Musk's words settled in the room, his phone buzzed on the table, cutting through the silence. Musk's eyes darted down at the screen. "What is it?" David asked, clearly sensing the sudden shift in energy. Musk picked up the phone, his face unreadable, as he glanced at the incoming notification. It was a news alert. His fingers moved swiftly, scrolling through the breaking headline. Breaking: Musk's secret blockchain charity project leaked. Ahead of schedule. What does this mean for global giving? The room went quiet as the words registered. A leak. Someone had gotten wind of Musk's hidden agenda. Someone had shared his groundbreaking idea with the press before he could fully reveal it. David stood up, looking alarmed. "Who leaked this?"
How did they find out? Musk exhaled sharply, his jaw tightening. Doesn't matter, the cat's out of the bag now. The rest of the room exchanged uneasy glances.
The story was already circulating on social media, and soon enough it would explode into the mainstream. Musk's plan, his vision to radically alter the way charity worked, was no longer a secret. But with it came even more questions. Who was behind the leak, and why now? The room shifted from shock to determination. Musk looked at his team, his expression resolute. "This isn't over," he said. "It's just begun." As the meeting broke up and everyone filed out of the room, Musk stood still for a moment, staring at the glowing cityscape outside. He knew that the world would never be the same. The platform would happen, whether the world was ready for it or not. But the question now was, would the world embrace it, or would it tear him down before he could change anything? The atmosphere in Musk's office was thick with the weight of impending doom. The flashing lights from the media storm had dimmed, only for a moment, but the world's gaze was still firmly fixed on him. News outlets were abuzz with reports of his leaked blockchain charity platform, and Musk had barely begun to regain control over the narrative when the next bombshell hit. Marcus Harris had escalated the situation. Musk had expected some kind of pushback, but he hadn't been prepared for this. A lawsuit. The papers arrived late one evening, delivered with cold precision by Harris's legal team. Musk's eyes scanned the document in his hands. The headline of the lawsuit was blunt: Class Action Lawsuit Against Elon Musk, Charitable Donation Attacks Loophole. It was as if everything he'd worked to build was now being undone, piece by piece, by a single set of allegations. The lawsuit accused Musk of using his $500 million donation as a method of tax evasion, claiming that the donation was not a genuine act of philanthropy, but rather a calculated attempt to reduce his tax liabilities. The suit outlined that Musk had directed his donation toward a shell organization with limited oversight and potential for misuse, questioning whether the money would actually benefit those it was intended for. Harris, having struck with surgical precision, was now on the attack in the courtroom. The lawsuit wasn't just a legal battle, it was a media spectacle, one that would shape the narrative for months, if not longer. Musk knew that if he lost this case, the damage would be irreparable. His credibility, already in tatters, would be crushed. As Musk sat down at the table with his legal team the next morning, the weight of the situation was palpable. His trusted lawyers, including Greg, a sharp, no-nonsense litigator, sat across from him. Greg's usually calm demeanor was tinged with concern. "Elon," Greg began, his voice steady but serious, "this is more than just a legal challenge. This is a public trial. Harris is gunning for your reputation. If we don't counter this effectively, the narrative could turn against you completely." Musk's eyes burned with frustration. "I didn't do this to avoid taxes, I didn't."
Donate all that money just to keep my wealth intact. I want to make a change, Greg.
Greg nodded, his face a mixture of understanding and caution. "We know that. But Harris has taken the first strike in the media. It's about more than the facts now. It's about perception. The public already has a shaky view of you now."
Harris is turning that doubt into a legal battle. Musk clenched his jaw. The pressure was mounting.
Every moment spent on this lawsuit felt like time lost on his vision, on his platform, on the greater mission he had set in motion. And the worst part? The public was already buying into Harris's accusations. Sure enough, as the lawsuit made headlines, Harris began his media campaign in full force. He appeared on every major news outlet, his voice calm and methodical, but with a sharp, biting edge. "Let's be clear," Harris's voice echoed through the screens. "This isn't about Musk's so-called generosity. This is about a billionaire using a broken system to manipulate the public into thinking he's some kind of philanthropist. He's not saving the world. He's saving his own skin, avoiding millions in taxes, and the world deserves to know that." Every new interview with Harris seemed to ignite a new round of questions. People were beginning to doubt Musk's intentions. News outlets, who had once celebrated him as a visionary, were now echoing Harris's claims. "Musk's philanthropy, benevolent or self-serving," screamed the headline in the New York Times. Musk's legal team scrambled to respond. They were preparing to fight this in court, but the tide was turning in Harris's favor. The more the lawsuit spread, the more doubt seeped into the public consciousness. The legal battle wasn't just happening in the courtroom, it was happening on the streets, in living rooms, across social media platforms. The situation grew more complicated with each passing day. Musk's supporters, those who had backed him throughout his career, began to waver. The tech community, usually so loyal to him, was now divided. Some rallied behind him, citing his previous contributions to society and his history of groundbreaking work. Others began to question if his latest actions were truly in line with his earlier ideals. Musk had never been one to shy away from a fight, but this battle felt different. The stakes were no longer about launching rockets or building electric cars. This was about his integrity, about whether the public would buy into his vision for a better future, or whether they would see him as just another billionaire playing the system. It was during a particularly tense morning at his headquarters, the weight of the legal proceedings pressing down on him, that Musk made a decision. The room was quiet, with only the sound of his legal team frantically working through documents. He stared at the screen in front of him, a live stream of Harris's latest interview playing. The smug look on Harris's face, the way he spoke, so effortlessly about Musk's supposed manipulation, it was too much. Musk couldn't take it anymore. He wasn't going to let Harris control the narrative. With a flick of his wrist, Musk shut down the stream and turned to Greg. "It's time to hit back. I can't sit in silence while he destroys everything I've worked for." Greg looked up from the stack of papers. "Elon, we have to be strategic. Harris has the media on his side and the lawsuit is now in full swing. If we go on the attack without careful thought,
I'm not just going to defend myself, Musk interrupted. I'm going to expose him for what he is. Harris doesn't care about charity. He cares about power. He's playing a game, and it's time we made the rules clear. The first
step was clear. Musk would fight fire with fire, but he would also reveal the truth, his true intentions, the real reason behind the donation, and how his vision for a charitable system could truly transform the world. As the court hearings loomed closer, Musk knew this would be the hardest battle of his life. But if there was one thing he had learned over the years, it was this: the fight was never over until he said it was. And he wasn't about to lose now. The pressure had never been greater, but Musk was ready to face it head on. The cold, sterile air of the courtroom felt suffocating as Elon Musk sat at the defendant's table, his hands clenched into tight fists. The tension in the room was palpable, the air thick with anticipation. Reporters crowded in the gallery, snapping photos and scribbling furiously in their notebooks. Every movement, every glance was under intense scrutiny. The world was watching Musk's legal team. A seasoned group of attorneys sat nervously beside him. Their eyes darted back and forth, scanning the evidence, preparing for the onslaught they knew was coming. But no matter how much they prepared, there was a storm they couldn't control. The person at the center of that storm was Marcus Harris, his rival, his nemesis, and now his biggest threat. The judge, a sharp-eyed woman in her late 50s, entered the room with a stern presence that instantly commanded silence. She had a reputation for being unflinching and impartial, especially when it came to billionaires like Musk. The courtroom fell into a hushed reverence as she took her seat. "Mr. Musk," she began, her voice cool and authoritative, "we are here today because your $500 million donation has been called into question. We will examine whether this donation was truly philanthropic, or if it was, as your opponent claims, a tax-dodging scheme masked as charity." Musk straightened in his chair, forcing himself to appear composed. His usual confidence, the swagger that had carried him through countless press conferences and interviews, seemed absent today. A bead of sweat slid down the back of his neck. This was different. This wasn't a PR stunt or a media fight. This was real. The judge turned to the prosecution, Marcus Harris's legal team. They wasted no time, hitting hard from the outset. "Your Honor," began Harris's lead attorney, a sharp-faced man named Alan Vance, "we are not here to question the defendant's personal wealth. What we are questioning is his motives. Why, at a time when Musk's companies are under investigation for labor violations and environmental concerns, would he suddenly donate such an enormous sum to charity? What we suspect, Your Honor, is that this is not an act of benevolence, but rather an elaborate strategy to avoid paying taxes on profits he has earned through questionable business practices." The words hit like a hammer, and Musk's stomach churned. He had known this was coming, but hearing it from the mouth of a professional litigator made it feel so much more real, so much more dangerous. The prosecutor continued, his voice smooth and unwavering. "We intend to show that Musk has been abusing the charitable donation loophole to offset his liabilities, benefiting not the people he claims to help, but rather himself. A tax loophole, Your Honor, that has been exploited for too long by the world's wealthiest individuals." Musk's legal team immediately sprang into action. Greg, Musk's lead attorney, stood and objected. "Objection, Your Honor, this is pure speculation. There is no evidence to suggest that Mr. Musk's donation was anything but genuine. He has a long history of supporting causes that align with his values." The judge's gaze flickered to Greg, but her expression remained unchanged. "Sustained," she said curtly, before turning back to Musk. "Mr. Musk, can you explain why you felt the need to make such a large donation at this particular time?" The room went silent. Musk felt a wave of heat rise to his face, his palms now slick with sweat. The question was simple enough, but in this context it felt like an accusation. The world had been asking him the same thing for days, and he had given them the same answer. It was to make a difference. But today, under the unforgiving lights of the courtroom, those words felt hollow. Could he truly convince the judge, the jury, and the world that his intentions were pure? Taking a deep breath, Musk stood, his movements slow, deliberate. "Your Honor, I've made this donation because I believe in change. I believe that we can build a better world through technology and transparency. Yes, I am a billionaire, but that doesn't mean my actions should be viewed through the lens of personal gain.
I have always strived to improve humanity's future, and this donation is part of that vision." The words felt rehearsed, but Musk didn't falter. The jury, a mix of men and women with neutral expressions, watched intently. He could feel their eyes on him, each one weighing his every word. The judge was silent, but her gaze was sharp, demanding more. Alan Vance, sensing an opening, stepped in.
But Mr. Musk, the truth is that you are a businessman, not a philanthropist. You've always been known for your ability to turn a profit, not for altruism. And now you're asking us to believe that this $500 million donation is the result of pure charity? Vance's words hung in the air, like an accusation. The courtroom seemed to tighten around Musk as the weight of the question sank in. He had always been a visionary, an innovator. But was he truly capable of carrying out this vision for the greater good, or was he, as Vance suggested, using his wealth and power to avoid accountability? Musk's legal team scrambled to provide evidence to counter Vance's claims, but the damage was done. The judge's eyes narrowed as she turned to the defense. "I want facts, not feelings," she said, her voice cutting through the tension. "Mr. Musk, you must demonstrate that your actions were not motivated by personal gain. We cannot allow the wealthy elite to use charity as a shield for their own interests."
Musk's heart pounded in his chest. The crowd in the gallery held its collective breath, waiting for his response. He had faced bigger challenges, fought bigger battles, but this felt different. This wasn't just a legal fight. It was a battle.
For his legacy, for everything he had worked for. He cleared his throat and met the judge's gaze directly. "I can't prove to you what's in my heart, Your Honor," he said, his voice steady now with a hint of quiet defiance. "But what I can prove is this. The donation is real. The projects I'm funding are real. The change I intend to bring to the world is real, and I'm not backing down." For a brief moment, there was silence. The judge seemed to be weighing his words, her eyes scanning his face for any sign of weakness. The room held its breath as the tension reached its peak. The judge leaned back in her chair, her fingers drumming lightly on the desk. "We will reconvene tomorrow," she said finally. "In the meantime, I expect both sides to prepare for the next phase of this case." As the courtroom cleared, Musk's legal team huddled together in quiet deliberation. Musk stood there for a moment, his gaze lingering on the judge's seat. The pressure, the uncertainty, it was all building, pushing him to the brink. He knew that this was far from over, but one thing was certain. He wasn't going down without a fight. The battle for his reputation, for his legacy, had only just begun. The courtroom was a pressure cooker, the tension so thick it felt like the walls were closing in. Elon Musk sat at the defendant's table, his legal team exhausted from days of brutal cross-examination. Marcus Harris's attorneys had skillfully planted seeds of doubt, their relentless questioning weaving a narrative that suggested Musk was using the donation as little more than a shield for his alleged misdeeds. With each passing moment, Musk's confidence seemed to drain away. The judge had been unimpressed with his explanation so far, and the media outside the courthouse was quick to frame the case as a battle between Musk's wealth and the public's need for transparency. Public opinion, which had once leaned in Musk's favor, was now wavering. The courtroom doors creaked open, and a hush fell over the room as a figure entered, taking the stand. Everyone looked up, and for a moment there was confusion. It was a face Musk hadn't seen in years, a familiar one, but one he never expected to see again. It was Sarah Benton, a former employee of Tesla, someone who had worked closely with him back in the early days of the company. She had left after a brief but intense tenure, citing personal reasons for her departure. Musk had always respected Sarah's brilliance and drive, but they had lost touch once she left. To see her now walking into the courtroom was unexpected, but what came next was even more surprising. Sarah took a deep breath as she stood at the witness stand, her expression somber but resolute. She glanced at Musk briefly, then turned to address the judge. "Your Honor," she began, her voice steady but firm, "I'm here today because I can no longer stay silent. What's happening in this courtroom, what Marcus Harris is trying to push forward, none of it is based on the truth." The room was silent, the eyes of everyone, Musk's legal team, Harris's, and the spectators, fixed on Sarah. Musk felt his heart skip a beat, unsure of where this was heading. Was this a trap, or was Sarah here to expose something Musk had
forgotten about? His mind raced. "I used to work for Mr. Musk," Sarah continued. "And while I was there, I witnessed firsthand what he's trying to build, not just as a businessman, but as someone who genuinely wants to make the world
better? But that's not why I'm here today. I'm here because there's something you all need to know." The judge leaned forward, intrigued. "Please proceed, Ms. Benton." Sarah's eyes flickered briefly to Musk before she turned back to the judge. "I'm here because there was an internal investigation into workplace conditions at Tesla a few years ago, one that Marcus Harris conveniently chose to ignore when making his accusations. This investigation was thorough and independent, involving both external experts and internal audits. And it found no wrongdoing, no exploitation, no unethical practices that could be linked to Mr. Musk or anyone at Tesla. The courtroom erupted into a low murmur. Musk's legal team was visibly taken aback. They had known about the investigation, but had never considered bringing it up in the trial. Now, with a former employee on the stand, the truth was being brought to light in a way no one expected. Sarah held up a file thick with documents. "Here are the official reports from that investigation. I have copies for the court to review. It's clear there was no systemic abuse at Tesla, no intentional neglect of workers. Yet Harris has chosen to ignore these findings to fit his
narrative." Musk sat back in his chair, stunned. He had never expected this, never imagined that someone from his past would step forward at this crucial moment to turn the tide in his favor.
It was a game-changing revelation. Marcus Harris's legal team reacted quickly, but the damage was already done. Alan Vance, the lead attorney for the prosecution, stood up, his face twisting with frustration. "Objection, Your Honor," he said, trying to regain control of the situation. "This is irrelevant. The issue at hand is not Tesla's internal affairs, but Mr. Musk's financial maneuvers. The question is whether his donation was part of a larger scheme to evade taxes." The judge, however, was unmoved. "Sustained," she said crisply, her gaze turning to Harris's team. "You will need to explain why this information, which contradicts your argument, should be dismissed." Harris's smug expression faltered. For the first time since the trial began, he seemed unsure of his footing. The leak of this internal investigation was a seismic shift. Musk's legal team seized the opportunity. Greg, Musk's lead attorney, immediately jumped in. "Your Honor, this investigation which Mr. Harris has so blatantly ignored clears my client of any wrongdoing related to the allegations of mistreatment. Not only was the investigation thorough, but it was also transparent. External parties reviewed it, and there is no evidence to suggest that the accusations Harris is peddling are anything but baseless." Vance sputtered in frustration, but found himself unable to counteract the force of the revelation. The courtroom was buzzing, the media outside picking up on the sudden shift. Musk's reputation, once under attack, was now being defended by an unexpected ally, someone who had worked directly with him, who had seen the inner workings of Tesla and the ethics Musk claimed to stand for. As the courtroom session continued, the mood had changed entirely. The tide was turning in Musk's favor. The doubts that Harris had planted in the minds of the jury were now beginning to unravel thread by thread. The internal investigation proved that Musk's donation was not some elaborate ruse. It was, in fact, a continuation of the values he had always espoused, values that had been there long before the donation. Outside the courthouse, the media was going wild. Headlines began to shift. Elon Musk's workplace allegations debunked by former Tesla employee blared across the screens. The hashtag #MuskInnocent began to trend, overshadowing the earlier smear campaign. For Musk, the courtroom felt like a battlefield, and this was the first major victory, but it was only the beginning. He still had to prove the legitimacy of his donation and the greater mission behind it. But for now, he allowed himself a small sigh of relief. He had weathered the storm thanks to an unexpected ally, and now, with the tide turning, he was more determined than ever to see this battle through to the end. The courtroom was still echoing with the aftershocks of Sarah Benton's testimony when Elon Musk found himself walking out into the blistering spotlight once again. The shift in momentum was palpable. His legal team was filled with a quiet optimism. They hadn't felt in days, but Musk knew the fight was far from over. While the courtroom drama had taken an unexpected turn in his favor, the public battle was a different animal altogether. He was still facing the weight of Marcus Harris's accusations and the persistent media campaign questioning his motives. As he exited the courthouse, a flurry of journalists surrounded him, cameras flashing like an army of paparazzi. Musk remained quiet, his face unreadable, the buzz of questions swirling around him. "Mr. Musk, do you feel vindicated by today's testimony?" one reporter shouted. "Will you be taking legal action against Harris for the smear campaign?" another pressed. But Musk stayed silent, his eyes focused ahead. His legal team ushered him into the waiting car, and the press, frustrated by his lack of response, began shouting more questions, but they fell on deaf ears. Inside the vehicle, the media outside seemed distant, almost irrelevant. What mattered now was what he was about to do next. Back at his private office, Musk sat in front of his computer, his fingers poised above the keyboard. His mind was already racing, the gears turning faster than he could process. The courtroom battle had given him a chance to breathe, but there was still a long road ahead. He could feel the weight of the world pressing against him, the expectations of his supporters, and the sharp-eyed scrutiny of his critics. He knew it was time for something drastic, something that would not only shift the narrative, but also define his legacy. With a single, decisive motion, he opened Twitter. His fingers flew across the keyboard, his thoughts spilling out into a direct message to his critics. "To all my critics and those who think they know me, I get it. You don't trust me, you don't believe in what I'm doing. I've been accused of using my wealth to manipulate the system, But I'm not here to play games or hide behind a donation to save my skin. I'm here to change the game entirely. So here's the truth. I'm not backing down. The words felt cathartic as he typed, his mind cutting through the noise of the media. He paused, reading the message one last time. He had been through so much already, the ridicule, the legal battle, the public outcry, but this was different. This was his chance to seize control of his narrative. I'm launching a new tech venture, he continued, a company dedicated to solving the very problems I've been accused of ignoring: transparency, accountability, and sustainability. The donation you all questioned is just the beginning. I'm using this money to fund a series of innovative startups that will tackle the world's most pressing issues, starting with social causes, environmental sustainability, and a complete overhaul of how global charities operate. The future isn't about trying to hide from the system. It's about changing it from within. Musk leaned back in his chair, staring at the screen for a moment. The words were bold, but they were true. His vision was about to unfold in a way no one expected. This wasn't just about defending himself anymore, it was about defining the future. With a deep breath, he hit send. The tweet went live, and the world, as it always did with Musk, erupted. Within minutes, the tweet exploded across social media. The hashtag, Musk revealed, shot to the top of the trending charts, overtaking Musk scam and Musk innocent. His direct message to his critics sent shockwaves through the media, catching even the most seasoned journalists off guard. News outlets scrambled to cover the announcement, and for the first time in days, Musk was no longer on the defensive. He had taken the fight to his own terms. The reaction was swift and varied. Musk's supporters cheered, rallying behind the bold move. "This is exactly what we need, innovation to fix a broken system," one Twitter user wrote. "Musk isn't just a businessman, he's changing the world." The sentiment was electric, and Musk's new venture seemed like a beacon of hope in the midst of the chaos. But it wasn't just supporters who took to social media. Marcus Harris, still reeling from the courtroom surprise, was momentarily speechless. His own followers were quick to call out the sudden shift in the narrative. "So, Harris, is this still just a tax dodge? Or is Musk about to prove you wrong?" One comment read, Harris, typically quick with a retort, remained silent for the moment, likely calculating his next move, but Musk could feel the pressure beginning to mount on his opponent. This wasn't just a legal battle anymore, it was a public showdown, one where Musk had taken the lead. In the media, the tide was turning. The New York Times released an article within the hour. Musk shocks critics with new tech venture, focuses on transparency and charity reform. The article, though cautious, couldn't ignore the undeniable potential of Musk's announcement. Is this Musk's grandest vision yet? Could he really be planning to change the way global charity operates with technology? The implications are staggering. Even the legal experts in the courtroom were forced to take notice. Musk's legal team, who had been worried about the media pressure, now found themselves buoyed by the shift in public opinion. The courtroom drama was no longer the sole focus. Now, Musk had given the world something to look forward to, something to rally behind. Musk stood up from his desk, a rare smile crossing his face. For the first time in days, he felt the grip of the media frenzy loosen. His critics would have to reckon with what he was about to do next. He wasn't just fighting for his reputation, he was fighting to reshape an entire industry. And this bold announcement, this game-changing plan, was his way of taking control. As he watched the tweets and news articles flood in, he knew the real battle was just beginning. Marcus Harris had underestimated him. He thought Musk was just another billionaire trying to play the system. But Musk had no intention of playing. He was here to win. And this time, he wasn't backing down. The world was holding its breath, waiting to see how Musk's audacious move would unfold. The moment he hit send on his tweet, the internet ignited. A storm of reactions flooded social media, news outlets, and opinion forums. The hashtags "to Musk revealed" and "Musk innovation" rapidly climbed the trending charts, overtaking older hashtags like "per-Musk scam." But, as expected, the public's response was a tangled web of excitement, skepticism, and speculation. At first, there was hesitation. People who had spent days reading negative headlines, questioning Musk's motives, were slow to accept his grand announcement. Some of the reactions were harsh, mocking the idea that a single donation could be the catalyst for such a transformative change in global charity systems. Skeptics questioned whether Musk's new venture was just another elaborate PR stunt, a distraction to divert attention from the ongoing legal battle. "I don't trust Musk's charity plans. Sounds like a way to buy his way out of trouble," one Twitter user wrote, their tweet gaining thousands of likes. Others weren't sure what to make of the blockchain-based platform Musk was proposing. Could technology really clean up the mess that global charity had become? Could a tech mogul like Musk genuinely improve systems that had been mired in inefficiency and corruption for decades? "I don't get it," another user tweeted. "How does a tech billionaire fixing charity even make sense?" Sounds like another project to add to his never-ending list of startups. But amidst the cynicism, there was an undeniable undercurrent of support. Musk's loyal followers, who had stood by him through thick and thin, rallied behind him like never before. They were quick to embrace the boldness of his vision, seeing his plan as the kind of radical change the world needed. His supporters celebrated his refusal to back down, applauding his audacity to challenge the status quo, even in the face of public scrutiny. Finally, someone who's actually doing something about global charity instead of just talking about it, one tweet read. Musk isn't just donating money, he's redesigning the entire system from the ground up. Musk innovation. Across platforms, tech enthusiasts and social entrepreneurs shared the same sentiment. Musk was not just a disruptor of industries, he was now positioning himself as a disruptor of philanthropy. The concept of using blockchain to ensure complete transparency in charitable donations caught the imagination of many. The idea of removing the fog of mystery surrounding where donated funds went and how they were used was revolutionary. And Musk, the billionaire who had always been a wild card, had once again managed to push the boundaries of what was possible. As the day wore on, more and more media outlets began to shift their coverage. Initially, the press had been harsh, skeptical of Musk's sudden leap from a tax dodge defense to a revolutionary new platform. But as the details of his plan began to circulate and his supporters continued to flood social media with positive commentary, the tone started to change. The New York Times, which had once focused on Musk's supposed financial manipulation, now ran a piece titled "Musk's Blockchain Charity Platform Could Reshape Philanthropy If It Works." The article, while cautious, couldn't ignore the potential of Musk's bold new vision. Musk's announcement may seem like a pivot from his current legal woes, but if successful, it could redefine how donations are handled worldwide. If anyone can bring transparency to the charity sector, it might just be him. Even outlets that had been critical of Musk began to give his new venture a closer look. The Guardian published a deep dive into the growing trend of tech-driven charity platforms, highlighting how Musk's vision was in line with a larger movement toward accountability in global giving. The story included interviews with experts in blockchain technology who saw Musk's idea as potentially game-changing. Imagine a world where every penny donated can be traced in real time, said one blockchain expert in the piece. Musk's venture could very well be the next evolution of charitable giving, if it gains traction. But the most profound shift came in the wake of the media frenzy when Harris's carefully constructed narrative began to crumble. Once, the darling of the media, Marcus Harris, who had been riding high on his criticism of Musk, suddenly found himself under attack from all sides. The public's perception of him was beginning to shift, and the media wasn't helping. In a stunning turn of events, one of Harris's former business associates gave an interview, shedding light on Harris's past corporate practices. The associate described how Harris had been involved in numerous controversial deals that had skirted ethical lines, from questionable tax schemes to manipulating media narratives for personal gain. The interview quickly gained traction, and soon the headlines that had once been dominated by Harris's attacks on Musk now featured his own skeletons. Marcus Harris, the man behind the smear campaign, read one headline from Business Insider. The media storm began to turn in Musk's favor. Harris, who had been riding high on a wave of public support, suddenly found himself scrambling to salvage his reputation. His legal team was quick to deflect, but the damage was done. His credibility, once unshakable, was now in freefall. Harris tried to counter Musk's new announcement with a statement of his own, accusing Musk of using his new venture to distract from the ongoing lawsuit. But it was too late. The media was no longer buying it. Musk had flipped the narrative. His supporters were energized, and his critics, many of whom had bought into Harris's claims, were beginning to reconsider. By the end of the day, the hashtag Musk innovation had become the talk of the town. It had surpassed a Musk scam and was now the central point of discussion across social media. Musk's bold strategy had done what seemed impossible. It had shifted the narrative, reversed the momentum, and put Harris on the defensive. Inside the courthouse, Harris's legal team was no longer confident. They could feel the shift in public opinion, and they knew it would affect their case. Musk's confidence, once shaken, now seemed unshakable. As Musk watched the media coverage evolve, he allowed himself a brief smile. The world had been waiting for him to falter. But now, with his new venture taking center stage, it was clear that he wasn't just fighting for his reputation, he was building something that could change the world. And that was far more powerful than any courtroom battle. Musk's moment had arrived. In the sleek, modern conference room, the air was thick with anticipation. Musk stood at the head of a long table, surrounded by his closest advisors and a handful of the brightest minds in technology, finance, and philanthropy. For weeks they had worked tirelessly behind closed doors, building what Musk hoped would be a revolutionary platform, a system that could not only change the way charity worked, but could also eliminate the corruption that had plagued the sector for decades. Outside, the media circus was at full throttle. Cameras were set up, drones hovered in the skies above, and reporters from across the world had gathered in anticipation. The world was waiting for Musk to unveil his next big move, the next bold vision that could change the world. The press conference had been tightly orchestrated. Musk, now a seasoned veteran of grand reveals, had a palpable energy in the air around him. He knew that this announcement would be different. It wasn't about a new gadget or a new rocket. This was about changing the very fabric of philanthropy. At the front of the room, a large screen flickered to life. A sleek logo appeared, Donor Link, Transparency in Giving. Beneath it, a tagline flashed, Empowering every donor, ensuring every dollar. Musk turned to the audience, his voice calm but charged with purpose. Today, we unveil something that could reshape the future of charitable giving, a platform that removes the opacity that has long plagued global philanthropy, a system that ensures every donor knows exactly where their money goes and exactly how it's being used. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Musk paused for a moment, letting the gravity of his words sink in. His legal battles, the accusations, the doubts, all of it seemed to disappear in this moment of clarity. This was the future. He gestured to the screen and a video began to play. The footage showed a real-time simulation of a donation being made. The donor, a middle-aged woman from Toronto, typed in her contribution, 100, to a global health initiative on the platform. As soon as she clicked Submit, a detailed breakdown appeared on her screen. $60 was going to a vaccination program in sub-Saharan Africa, $25 to local health workers, and $15 to administrative costs. The remaining $5 was allocated to sustainability initiatives, each dollar accounted for, each fund clearly designated. The video continued, showing the progress of the donation as it was tracked in real time. Donations were visually represented on a world map, showing the locations of funded projects with updates on the impact of the funds. "You will know exactly where your money is going," Musk's voice narrated over the footage. "You'll see the direct impact of every dollar donated." When the video ended, the screen cut back to Musk, who now stood with a confident smile. This is Donor Link, a blockchain-powered platform that tracks donations from start to finish, ensuring complete transparency and accountability. Every donation, no matter how small, will have a traceable impact. No more hidden fees, no more bloated overheads, only the projects, the people, and the causes that truly need it. There was a stunned silence in the room. The implications of what Musk was revealing were huge. In that moment, it became clear that he wasn't just addressing the criticisms that had been levied against him. He was dismantling the very system that allowed corruption and inefficiency to thrive in global charity. The media burst into action. Journalists scrambled to process the information and digest the scale of the revelation. Musk had done it again. He had turned the narrative around in a way no one had expected. The first question from the press was immediate. "Mr. Musk, how do you plan to scale this platform globally? And will it really change the way donations are handled across the board?" Musk smiled, his confidence building with every word. "The beauty of blockchain is its scalability. It's not just a system for transparency, it's a global solution. DonorLink will partner with organizations, governments, and corporations worldwide to ensure that funds are allocated efficiently and effectively. Every donor will have access to a real-time dashboard that shows exactly where their money is being used from the local level to the international level." Another journalist raised a hand, clearly impressed. "What about trust? With so many organizations and causes, how can we be sure that the system won't be manipulated?" "Great question," Musk responded. "The system is built on smart contracts, which means that the funds can't be moved unless they meet predefined criteria that are transparent to everyone. If a charity or project doesn't meet the goals outlined, the donor can easily reallocate their funds to something else. This is about empowerment, not just for the donors, but for the recipients as well. The questions continued, but Musk's answers remained sharp, each one reinforcing the vision he had laid out. The platform wasn't just about giving, it was about changing the very structure of charitable work. It was about creating a world where giving was no longer a matter of faith, but a matter of facts. As the press conference wrapped up, the energy in the room was electric. The media frenzy that had once centered on Musk's legal troubles and the #Musk scam hashtag had shifted entirely. Headlines began to pour in. Musk unveils revolutionary charity platform Donor link sets new standard for transparency. Blockchain meets charity. How Musk is reshaping the way we give. Musk's visionary move could end charity corruption for good. Outside, the world was abuzz. Social media lit up with excitement as the hashtag #Musk Innovation began trending in every corner of the globe. From Silicon Valley to remote villages in Africa, the conversation was the same. Musk had just changed the game. But it wasn't just about the platform. Musk's $500 million donation, once questioned as a tax-dodging ploy, was now seen in a new light. It wasn't just a donation, it was the first step in a grand vision to make charity more transparent, efficient, and impactful. The key public, which had once been divided and skeptical, was now united in its fascination with Musk's bold vision. Even his fiercest critics had to admit what Musk was doing was big, very big. In the days that followed, Marcus Harris's media campaign began to lose steam. His criticisms of Musk's donation and intentions were drowned out by the overwhelming wave of support for the blockchain platform. The very issue Harris had tried to exploit, Musk's alleged manipulation of the system, was now the very thing that had set him apart as a true innovator. Musk's legacy was shifting from a controversial billionaire known for his ventures in space and electric cars to a visionary who had forever altered the landscape of global philanthropy. The stage had been set, and now the world was watching, eager to see what Musk would do next. For Musk, the battle was far from over, but today he had won a decisive victory. The tide had turned, and the future of charity had just been rewritten. The stage was set. A global audience tuned in to watch what was about to unfold. The debate had been billed as the confrontation of the century: Elon Musk, the tech mogul, against Marcus Harris, the media mogul, both titans of their respective worlds. This was the final showdown. No more press releases, no more tweets. This was the moment where Musk and Harris would face off directly in front of cameras and a live audience to settle the battle once and for all. The set was designed to be neutral, but there was nothing neutral about the stakes. On one side of the stage, Musk sat confidently, his legal team and advisors positioned behind him. His posture was relaxed, but his eyes were sharp. He knew what this moment represented. On the other side, Harris fidgeted, his usually calm demeanor shaken by the series of setbacks he had endured in recent weeks. The once dominant figure in the media was now on the defensive, his credibility slipping with every passing day. The debate moderator, a respected journalist known for his impartiality, introduced the participants. Good evening, everyone. Tonight, we have a special live debate between two of the most influential figures of our time. On my left, Marcus Harris, billionaire investor and media mogul. On my right, Elon Musk, CEO of multiple groundbreaking companies and the man behind the revolutionary charity platform Donor Link. The topic tonight: can tech innovation truly transform the charity sector? The audience's anticipation was palpable. Cameras clicked, the crowd murmured, and the tension in the room thickened as the debate began. The moderator turned to Harris first. Mr. Harris, your objections to Musk's platform have been widely discussed in the media. What is your main concern about Donor Link? Harris didn't hesitate. He had prepared for this moment, knowing it would be his last opportunity to discredit Musk. My main concern, he began, his voice measured and deliberate, is that while Musk's platform promises transparency, it lacks a true understanding of how the charity sector works. Blockchain and technology are not silver bullets. Philanthropy is about relationships, trust, and human connection, not just data and efficiency. Musk's platform, while innovative, risks turning charity into a numbers game, making it about profit margins rather than people. The audience shifted uncomfortably. Harris's argument, while grounded in sentiment, felt hollow in comparison to the media buzz around Musk's new venture. Musk, who had been listening intently, didn't flinch. His response was swift, deliberate, and calm. "I understand your concern, Marcus," Musk began, his voice carrying the weight of conviction. "But with all due respect, you've missed the point entirely. DonorLink isn't about replacing human connection. It's about restoring trust, something the charity sector has lost due to inefficiency, lack of accountability, and yes, corruption. You see, Marcus, you're viewing this through the lens of the old guard, but we're in a new age. Technology can give us the transparency we've been denied for so long." Musk paused, allowing his words to sink in. "What I'm offering with DonorLink isn't just a platform, it's a revolution in how we give. We don't just throw money at problems and hope for the best. We track the money. We hold organizations accountable. We ensure every cent goes where it's needed. That's not just tech for tech's sake. That's real, measurable impact, and it's what the world needs." A murmur of approval rippled through the audience. The moderator nodded, then turned to Harris, who seemed visibly rattled by Musk's composed rebuttal. "Mr. Harris, Musk
makes a strong point. How do you respond?" Harris, unwilling to concede, tried to regain control. What Musk fails to acknowledge is the complexity of charity work. Not every organization can be boiled down to numbers. People in need are more
than data points. There's a level of nuance, a human element, that a platform like DonorLink can't replicate. You can't just automate goodwill. Musk's expression remained unfazed. "I never said you could automate goodwill, Marcus, but let me tell you what we can automate: transparency, trust, efficiency. In an age where billions are donated every year, the donors have a right to know exactly where their money is going. They deserve to see the impact they're making in real time. DonorLink is not about replacing human connection. It's about enhancing it by making the process more honest, more reliable." Musk paused and then took a more personal tone, leaning slightly forward. "And Marcus, with all due respect, your dismissal of this platform reflects a lack of understanding of both the technology and the charity sector. Blockchain is not a fad, it's the future. And as much as you want to believe that human emotion and relationships are the backbone of charity, the truth is that trust is the backbone of charity. And for far too long, we've lacked that trust." The audience was silent for a moment, processing Musk's words. It was clear that Harris's argument, which had been rooted in skepticism of technology, was losing ground. Harris shifted uncomfortably. In his seat, his eyes darting briefly to his team behind him, who were looking more and more uneasy as the debate wore on. "Let's talk about trust for a moment, Marcus," Musk continued, a glint of determination in his eyes. "You've built a career on manipulating media narratives. You've turned public opinion to your favor time and again. But you know what? The truth is catching up to you. The people can see through your smoke and mirrors. You've been using your platform to undermine not just me, but the very people who would benefit from the innovation that DonorLink represents." The room seemed to hold its breath. Harris opened his mouth to respond, but Musk didn't give him the chance. "You've played the game of influence for years, Marcus, but it's time to change the game. DonorLink isn't just a platform, it's the future, and you can't stop it." Musk's words landed like a heavy blow, and Harris, visibly flustered, found himself unable to mount a coherent response. The media, which had once hung on Harris's every word, now seemed to lose interest in his defense. Musk had, once again, turned the tables. His argument was clear, his resolve unshaken. As the debate ended, the public's perception shifted irreparably. Harris, who had once been the media's darling, now found himself struggling to regain the respect and credibility he had lost. Musk's supporters surged in number, flooding social media with messages of support and admiration. The hashtag #OurMuskInnovation trended worldwide, while #Harris debunked quickly gained traction as people dissected his faltering performance. In the days that followed, the media began to pivot. The focus was no longer on Musk's legal issues or accusations of manipulation. Instead, the spotlight turned to his bold vision for the future. The discussion had shifted from skepticism to hope. Musk's blockchain platform was seen as the game-changer it promised to be. For Harris, however, the damage was done. His smear campaign, once so effective, had backfired spectacularly. His credibility was shattered, and the media, which had once hung on his every word, now turned their attention elsewhere. In the end, Musk had won, not just the debate, but the future. The public rallied behind him, and Harris's reign as the media darling crumbled under the weight of his own missteps. Musk had not only survived the storm, he had emerged stronger than ever, with a vision that was already changing the world. The courtroom was electric with tension as the final moments of the trial unfolded. The legal battle that had gripped the media for months and caused Musk to face relentless scrutiny was finally reaching its conclusion. The public, who had followed every twist and turn of the case, now awaited the most crucial moment, the judge's verdict. Elon Musk sat in his usual spot at the defendant's table, flanked by his legal team, his expression a mixture of calm determination and quiet anticipation. His eyes were focused on the judge, who sat poised at the bench. Her gavel was in hand, the room hanging on her every word. The judge, who had presided over the case with a stern and impartial demeanor, cleared her throat. The room fell silent. After reviewing all the evidence presented, she began, her voice steady, and carefully considering the arguments from both sides, this court finds that the defendant, Elon Musk, is not guilty of any charges related to tax evasion or fraudulent activity concerning his $500 million donation. The words echoed through the courtroom like a shockwave. Musk's legal team let out an audible breath of relief, but Musk remained motionless, as if the weight of the moment hadn't fully hit him yet. The judge continued, her words carrying the weight of history. Furthermore, she said, her eyes briefly meeting Musk's, this donation was not only legitimate, but also groundbreaking in its potential to change the charity sector as we know it. Mr. Musk's initiative, through the DonorLink platform, represents a bold and transformative approach to ensuring transparency and efficiency in global philanthropy. This court acknowledges that while the motivations behind such a donation may have been questioned, the impact it could have on the global charity ecosystem is undeniable. A murmur rippled through the courtroom, followed by applause. Musk, who had been fighting this battle for so long, finally allowed himself a small, appreciative smile. His legal team exchanged glances of triumph, but Musk knew that the real victory was far greater than any legal win. The judge raised her gavel. All charges against Mr. Musk are hereby dismissed. This case is closed. The room erupted into applause, and Musk stood slowly, his legal team surrounding him in congratulations. The media, who had once painted him as a manipulator, now snapped photos of him, capturing the moment of his triumph. For the first time in months, Musk felt the weight on his shoulders lift. The battle had been long, but it was finally over, and he had emerged victorious. As Musk walked out of the courtroom, reporters shouted questions, their microphones thrust forward. He ignored them, his focus elsewhere. On the world outside, on the future he had just fought to shape. His donation, once seen as a mere attempt at damage control, was now seen as a catalyst for real change. The blockchain-powered charity platform, DonorLink, was poised to revolutionize the way the world viewed giving. In the days that followed, the media frenzy began to die down. The public's perception of Musk, which had once been clouded by skepticism and doubt, shifted dramatically. News outlets that had once been critical now published stories praising his vision. The hashtag, Musk Innovation, continued to trend, with more high-profile figures joining the conversation, praising Musk's efforts to bring transparency and accountability to the charity sector. The Wall Street Journal ran a feature titled Elon, Musk's Leap of Faith: How a Billionaire's $500 million Donation is Changing Global Philanthropy. The article detailed how Musk's transparency-driven initiative had the potential to disrupt the entire charity industry, calling his actions a leap of faith that has paid off in ways no one could have imagined. The public began to rally behind Musk in a way that no one had expected. Once seen as a controversial billionaire, Musk was now regarded as a visionary, someone who had used his wealth not just for personal gain, but to tackle some of the world's biggest issues. His donation was no longer seen as a tax-evading gimmick. It was a testament to his belief that technology could be harnessed for the greater good. Support poured in from all corners. Celebrities, business leaders, and philanthropists who had once remained on the sidelines now came forward to offer their support. Musk's social media accounts were flooded with messages of admiration, with many expressing gratitude for his
role in changing the way the world thought about charity. Finally, a billionaire doing something good for the world. One tweet read, "Musk is doing what no one else had the courage to even think about." Another comment read, "When people said Musk was a genius, they didn't just mean in tech. This could change philanthropy forever." Even Harris, who had spent so much time attempting to undermine Musk's credibility, found his position in the media weakened. The revelations about his own past were now front and center, and his credibility was irreparably damaged. His attempts to reclaim the spotlight were met with ridicule as more and more media outlets began to focus on Musk's innovative platform rather than Harris's failed campaign to discredit him. For Musk, the court case was only one battle. The real work was just beginning. DonorLink was now live and donations were flooding in from around the world. The platform was gaining traction rapidly, with high-profile global organizations signing on to use the system for their charitable efforts. The donation that had once seemed like a public relations move was now the cornerstone of a project that was reshaping the future of giving. As Musk sat in his office, looking out at the city skyline, he reflected on everything that had led him here.
The legal battle, the media scrutiny, the doubts, but in the end, it was worth it. His belief in technology's ability to drive real change had not wavered, and now, with DonorLink, the world was beginning to see just how far that belief could go. Musk's reputation, once clouded with controversy, was now fully restored. He wasn't just a tech mogul, he was a hero, a man who had taken a leap of faith and turned it into something that could truly make a difference in the world. The legacy he had fought for was finally taking shape, and the world was watching, ready to see just how much change he could bring. And, for Musk, this was only the beginning. The day had finally arrived. The world was watching as Elon Musk's groundbreaking blockchain charity platform, DonorLink, officially launched. The buzz around the project had been building for months, fueled by the media frenzy, Musk's recent court victory, and the unwavering support of his growing base of followers. But now the platform was live, and the true test of Musk's vision had begun. The platform's interface was sleek and intuitive, designed to make charitable giving as transparent and efficient as possible. Donors from all over the world logged in, creating accounts, choosing causes they cared about, and making contributions. Each donation was tracked in real time, and users could watch as their money was allocated to specific initiatives, from local health projects in underdeveloped regions to environmental conservation efforts around the globe. At the heart of DonorLink was its ability to break down every donation, showing exactly where the funds were going, which programs they were supporting, how much was spent on operational costs, and how much was directed to the actual cause. No longer did people have to wonder if their charitable contributions were being used efficiently. Every dollar was accounted for, and every donor had access to a detailed breakdown of their impact. As donations started to pour in, the scale of Musk's vision began to unfold before the world's eyes. Within hours, millions of dollars were funneled into the platform, directed toward causes that had previously struggled to gain traction. The blockchain technology that Musk had championed ensured that not a single cent went unaccounted for, while smart contracts ensured the funds went only to the most qualified and vetted organizations. One of the first major initiatives funded through the platform was a vaccine distribution project in several African countries. With the help of DonorLink's transparency features, donors could track every stage of the distribution process, from the procurement of vaccines to their delivery on the ground, ensuring that no funds were siphoned off along the way. The initiative was a resounding success, with millions of people receiving life-saving vaccines, all thanks to the direct involvement of donors who could see their contributions making an immediate impact. As the days passed, the impact of DonorLink grew exponentially. Stories flooded in from around the world, mothers in rural India receiving access to clean water, schools in South America equipped with solar-powered classrooms, and medical clinics in the Middle East gaining the resources they desperately needed to treat patients. Each donation, no matter how small, was making a difference. Donors, empowered by the visibility DonorLink provided, began giving more regularly, knowing that their contributions were being used for the greater good. In Silicon Valley, the tech world buzzed with excitement. Startups, large corporations, and even government entities began looking at DonorLink as a model for transparency and accountability in the non-profit sector. Entrepreneurs hailed Musk as a pioneer, blending technology with social good in a way that no one had anticipated. The platform wasn't just a success, it was revolutionizing how people thought about giving. The way Musk has used blockchain to bring transparency to charity is exactly what we need, said one tech investor in an interview with TechCrunch. This is the future of philanthropy. It's not just about writing a check anymore, it's about ensuring that every penny has an impact. The public's perception of Musk had undergone a radical transformation. Once seen as a divisive figure, often criticized for his larger-than-life persona and eccentric behavior, Musk was now being celebrated as a visionary, a true leader in social change. He wasn't just a billionaire, he was a man who had used his wealth, power, and influence to tackle some of the world's most pressing issues. Musk's vision for a more transparent, accountable, and effective charity sector was being realized before the eyes of the world. Meanwhile, the impact of Musk's initial $500 million donation grew far beyond what anyone had anticipated. The funds, which had once been questioned as a simple public relations move, were now seen as the beginning of a global movement, a catalyst for change that had inspired millions. The donation funded the development of DonorLink, and, through that platform, countless other projects had been brought to life. The scale was unprecedented. Musk's influence wasn't limited to the tech world, it was spreading across every corner of the globe. As the platform gained more traction, more high-profile donors signed on. Celebrities, CEOs, philanthropists, and even governments began to funnel their resources through DonorLink, knowing that the platform offered something that had been sorely missing from the charity world: trust. Major non-profits also began to partner with the platform, using it to streamline their fundraising efforts and demonstrate the real-world impact of their initiatives. For the first time in history, the charity sector was operating with the kind of transparency that had long been promised but never fully realized. With every new partnership, every new donor, and every new success story, Musk's vision for the future of philanthropy became clearer. The world was changing, and Musk had played a pivotal role in shaping that change. The once controversial tech mogul had now become a hero in the eyes of many, his name synonymous with innovation and social good. As Musk sat in his office late one evening, watching the impact of DonorLink unfold on his screen, he allowed himself a rare moment of reflection. The road had been long and fraught with challenges, from the legal battles to the media firestorm. But as he saw the millions of lives being touched by the initiatives funded through his platform, he knew that the effort had been worth it. His mind raced with new possibilities. DonorLink was just the beginning. What would happen next? Could this platform grow even further? Could it change not just the way we give, but the way we view global problems? Musk's eyes sparkled with excitement, already looking toward the future. For the first time in his career, Musk felt a sense of fulfillment beyond the tech world. He had taken a bold step, a leap of faith, and it had paid off in ways that no one had imagined. As the world continued to embrace his platform, Musk knew that this new era of philanthropy, driven by transparency, efficiency, and technology, was just getting started. It was a quiet evening in Musk's office when the unexpected news came through. He had spent the day reviewing reports on DonorLink's progress, amazed by the sheer scale of impact the platform was having. But what he wasn't prepared for was the email that arrived in his inbox, an email that would change everything. Musk clicked it open, expecting another routine update. But the subject line caught his attention: breakthrough medical treatment funded by DonorLink's side. Initiative, urgent discovery. His heart skipped a beat. It was from Dr. Emma Klein, the head of a medical research group that had been part of one of the smaller, lesser publicized projects Musk had funded through DonorLink. The group had been working on vaccine distribution in underdeveloped countries, a noble but relatively straightforward endeavor. At least that was how it had been presented. The email itself was direct. "Elon," it began, "we have made a breakthrough." Musk's eyes darted to the screen, reading the words carefully. The email detailed how, during the distribution of vaccines in Southeast Asia, the medical team had inadvertently discovered something far more significant: a compound in the vaccine that appeared to have unique, life-saving properties, capable of treating an array of previously untreatable diseases. The research group had noticed that patients who had received the vaccine, specifically those suffering from chronic conditions like malaria and tuberculosis, had shown remarkable signs of recovery. These were diseases that had plagued humanity for centuries, resistant to treatment, with few breakthroughs in modern medicine. But the vaccine seemed to have an unexpected side effect. It activated a dormant immune response in patients that allowed them to fight off not just malaria, but other infections as well. Dr. Klein's team had continued to study the phenomenon, working with leading global health organizations to test the compound. The results were nothing short of extraordinary. The compound appeared to be a game-changer, with the potential to save millions of lives by boosting the body's ability to fight a variety of diseases. This was the breakthrough that the world had been waiting for, a treatment that could save lives on a global scale. Musk sat back in his chair, his mind racing. What had started as a simple donation to fund a vaccination campaign had now led to the discovery of something far bigger. This wasn't just about transparency or efficiency in giving, it was about saving lives, about making a real difference in ways no one had anticipated. The medical world was still reeling from the discovery. Researchers were scrambling to confirm the findings, and the news was already spreading through scientific journals. The compound, which had been a byproduct of the vaccine distribution project, was now being hailed as one of the most significant medical advancements in decades. It wasn't just another breakthrough, it was the kind of discovery that could alter the course of global health forever. The public began to catch wind of the story. Headlines across the globe screamed with excitement. Unexpected discovery. Musk-funded vaccine leads to medical breakthrough that could save millions. How Elon Musk's charity donation uncovered a game-changing medical treatment. Musk's leap of faith from charity to medical innovation. What had initially been seen as a philanthropic gesture was now being recognized as a catalyst for one of the most profound advances in medical science. Musk's donation, which many had questioned at the start, had ignited a chain of events that no one could have predicted. Musk's reputation soared to unprecedented heights. He was no longer just the billionaire CEO known for launching rockets and building electric cars. He was now being hailed as a visionary in the world of medicine and global health. His leap of faith had not only transformed the charity sector, but had directly contributed to one of the most significant breakthroughs in modern history. The media couldn't stop talking about the discovery. Musk didn't just donate money, one article wrote. He invested in the future, and in doing so, he inadvertently funded a medical revolution. In the weeks that followed, medical organizations scrambled to fast-track the development of the new treatment. The World Health Organization and the Gates Foundation, among others, expressed interest in collaborating on its distribution with the aim of making it available to as many people as possible. The compound, now called Musk-01, was on its way to clinical trials, with initial reports suggesting it could be the key to eradicating diseases like malaria and tuberculosis in developing countries. The ripple effect of Musk's donation was staggering. What had been a side initiative in his larger charity project was now at the forefront of medical innovation. The initial skepticism surrounding his donation, his PR stunt, as some had called it, was completely overshadowed by the life-saving potential of what had been funded. Musk was interviewed countless times by global news networks, hailed as a visionary who had taken a risk, and it had paid off in ways no one could
have imagined.
The compound, initially just a byproduct of his donation, was now his legacy. He was no longer seen simply as a billionaire in the tech industry. He had become a true pioneer in global health, someone whose impact would be felt for generations. As Musk watched the progress unfold, he couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. The journey had been difficult, full of trials and tribulations, but in the end, it had led to something far bigger than anyone could have predicted. Musk had always believed in pushing boundaries, in taking risks, and now, thanks to his leap of faith, millions of lives would be saved just as he had always hoped. The world had changed in ways Musk could never have imagined when he first made that donation. His vision had not only transformed the charity world, it had reshaped the future of global health. And in doing so, Musk had proven that sometimes the biggest leaps of faith lead to the most extraordinary outcomes. The sun was setting over the horizon, casting a warm, golden glow across the bustling cityscape. In the heart of Silicon Valley, a large crowd had gathered, their eyes fixed on the stage at the front of the plaza. It was the culmination of a journey that had captivated the world, Elon Musk's journey, from controversial billionaire to a true trailblazer in both technology and philanthropy. The atmosphere was electric, filled with excitement, admiration, and a sense of history in the making. Musk stood at the podium, a slight smile playing at the corners of his mouth. The stage was simple, but the symbolism of the moment was profound. Behind him, a large screen displayed images of the countless projects funded through his charity platform, Donor Link. Children in Africa receiving vaccines, families in rural India gaining access to clean water, and hospitals in South America providing life-saving treatments. All of it made possible by the initiative that had begun with a single, daring donation. As the crowd waited, Musk reflected on everything that
had led to this point.
The ups and downs, the media frenzy, the courtroom battles, the doubts and the triumphs. There had been moments of fear and uncertainty, but also moments of hope and inspiration. And now, standing before thousands, Musk could feel the weight
of his legacy settling in. He cleared his throat. The crowd hushed in anticipation.
This wasn't just a speech. It was a reflection on the journey that had brought him here, the journey of risk, innovation, and the relentless pursuit of change. For most of my career, Musk began, his voice calm but filled with purpose, I've been told that the future belongs to those who can dream big, who can take risks and innovate. I've spent my life pushing the boundaries of what's possible in technology, whether it's electric vehicles, space travel, or artificial intelligence. But there's something more important than that, using that innovation for the greater good. The crowd listened intently, hanging on his every word. Musk continued, his gaze scanning the sea of faces in front of him. Years ago, when I made the decision to donate $500 million to charity, I knew it would be controversial. I knew there would be questions, accusations, and doubts, but I also knew that technology had the potential to solve some of the world's biggest problems. So I decided to take a leap of faith, to create a platform that would revolutionize how we give, how we track donations, and how we ensure that every penny goes to where it's needed most. He paused for a moment, the weight of his words hanging in the air. The journey wasn't easy. I faced criticism, I faced setbacks, but I also saw something amazing happen. I saw lives change, I saw communities uplifted, and I saw a new era
of philanthropy emerge, an era where technology, transparency, and trust are at the heart of giving. Musk's voice softened, the sincerity in his tone resonating with the crowd. What we've done together with DonorLink is just the beginning.
The world is full of problems that need solutions. And while I don't have all the answers, I believe that technology, when used for the right reasons, can make a real difference. That's why I took the risk, because sometimes, to solve the big problems, you have to take the biggest risks. He looked out at the crowd, his eyes filled with quiet pride. And now looking back, I know that the risk was worth it. Not just for the success of the platform, but for the countless lives it's touched. I believe this is how we create lasting change, not through words, but through action. Through innovation, and through the willingness to take risks for the greater good. The crowd erupted in applause, their cheers echoing through the plaza. Musk stood tall, his heart swelling with a mixture of gratitude and humility. He had done it. The legacy he had worked so hard to build, the vision he had pursued with unrelenting determination, was now firmly cemented in history. He had proven that technology could not only drive progress, but could also be a force for good in the world. As the applause continued, Musk stepped away from the podium, nodding his thanks to the crowd. The roar of support was overwhelming, but he knew that this moment wasn't about him. It was about the future of philanthropy, the future of technology, and the future of the countless lives that had been touched by his work. As he walked off the stage, his place in history was assured. Musk had not only redefined what it meant to be a philanthropist, He had transformed the very fabric of how charity was viewed and practiced. His bold leap of faith had paid off, and the world was better for it. Musk turned one last time to face the crowd, the applause still
ringing in his ears. His legacy was no longer a question. It was a certainty. He had taken a chance, and in doing so, had changed the world.
The future, now more than ever, belonged to those who dared to take risks and innovate for the greater good. And as the crowd cheered, Musk knew that the journey was far from over. It was just the beginning. The evening sky had turned a deep, rich orange, the fading light casting long shadows across the road ahead. Elon Musk sat in the back of his sleek black car, gazing out of the window as the world outside seemed to blur by. The roar of the city was behind him now, fading into the distance as the vehicle hummed along, carrying him toward the unknown. It had been a monumental day, the launch of DonorLink, the public embrace of his vision, and the completion of a long and arduous battle. Musk had proven his doubters wrong, reshaped the charity sector, and solidified his legacy as a philanthropist. For the first time in a long while, he felt a sense of accomplishment settle in his chest. But even as the weight of that victory hung in the air, Musk knew that this was just a chapter in a much bigger story. As the car sped through the quiet streets, a familiar sound filled the space, his phone buzzing in his pocket. He fished it out, glancing at the screen. It was a notification from his personal assistant. The headline was bold and urgent. Musk's next big project revealed, a new mission to Mars. Musk's eyes narrowed, his heart skipping a beat, as he unlocked the screen and tapped the notification. The article opened to reveal a bold new vision, a new goal to conquer the next frontier, this time with Mars at the center of it. The piece detailed Musk's latest ambition to establish the first human colony on Mars, a project that was already in the planning stages, backed by his space exploration company, SpaceX. After revolutionizing the way the world thinks about charity, Elon Musk is now setting his sights on a new challenge: Mars. The billionaire visionary is preparing to launch the most ambitious space mission in history, aiming to establish the first human settlement on the Red Planet. With a team of engineers, scientists, and innovators already on board, Musk's Mission Mars could change the future of humanity once again. The first crewed flight could be ready within a matter of years, but with such an ambitious goal comes significant challenges, and many are left wondering, can Musk pull this off? The screen faded from the article and cut to Musk still in the back of his car, his eyes reflecting the soft glow of the streetlights. A smile tugged at the corner of his lips as he read the headline one more time. His next challenge, it seemed, was already set in motion. He leaned back, letting out a soft sigh. It was the same feeling he'd had when he first launched SpaceX, when he first committed to Tesla, when he set out to change the world. Musk had always been driven by the desire to do what others said was impossible. And now, with the world watching, he was about to take on the most daring challenge yet: bringing humanity to Mars. As the car rounded a corner and the city skyline grew smaller in the rearview mirror, the sunset deepened into twilight. The vast expanse of the night stretched before him, much like the possibilities that lay ahead. His mission to change the world wasn't over. It had just evolved. The camera cut to a wide shot of Musk's car driving off into the distance, the golden sun sinking lower on the horizon. The scene lingered for a moment, the road ahead both familiar and full of endless possibilities. And just as the car disappeared into the night, the screen flashed once more. The future is waiting. Musk's new journey begins. The screen faded to black, leaving the audience on the edge of their seats. What came next for the man who had already defied the odds and changed the world? The questions lingered, and the world would be watching. The adventure was far from over.